This is not an iPhone. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I took my iPhone 14 Pro Max and returned it, and I've left myself with this. First off, let's get down to the regular scheduled studio space where we can have this conversation in a little bit more comfort, okay? While I've got my coffee, away we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're back here again for another episode of the Painfully Honest Tech Show, where I'm going to talk to you about the painfully honest things that I think about tech. Today, our subject being the iPhone 14 Pro / Pro Max. That's not the right one. This is the one. This is the one, yeah. Thank you very much. Oh! It's great to be here again. Let me tell you, folks, it has been a week. It has been a month, actually. You know, I went out of town and got really sick. Like cold, flu, kind of sick. It wasn't COVID. I got tested twice. It wasn't COVID. And then I came back home and I was just like dead sick. It was terrible. And now I'm getting ready to move. In fact, we signed the papers for the mortgage and all the kind of stuff on Friday for this new place that we're moving into. So this is one of the last episodes of the Painfully Honest Tech Show I'm going to record in this space. So yeah, sad trombone. Yeah. Yes, May. I want to talk to you about the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, I've made a couple of videos about the iPhone 14 Pro Max before, and there are a few things I want to talk about that are just gonna put a period on the sentence of my experience with the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm gonna sort of go through what I think is the value proposition of the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, and why that doesn't add up to making it worthwhile for me. I mean, now, this is my iPhone now. This is actually my wife's old iPhone, which it's all janky and broken. It's been in this case for 1,000 years. Oh, the case is yellow. The phone itself, we got screen protector that's all broken. I'll take that off. Screen itself, not broken. I gave my wife the iPhone 14 Pro Max because she hasn't had a new phone since the iPhone 12 came out, and so I just figured she deserved to have a new phone. But I did not keep mine, and here are the reasons why. I mean, first, there's the always-on display, and I talked about how much it bothered me, the screen always being on, and yes, it does change things whenever you go from when you have a darker background, it does almost go all the way off. It's fine. But for me, it caused me a great deal of anxiety. I have my automatic off setting for my iPhones at never, because I do a lot of Amazon streams, and when I do Amazon streams, I have to have this on because it's how I interact with the Amazon live streaming platform through their app, and so it's just easier to leave it on all the time as opposed to, and I do Amazon so often, I never take it off. I never take it off, never. So the always-on display was just generally freaking out. I gave it a couple of weeks. It never got better. And when I made a video complaining about the always-on display and how it was too much always-on and it should be more like something like this, where you get the information that you need and then you get your widgets and you can tap in and you can go. People were like, oh, you could just turn it off, or you just wanted to be like Android or whatever. And okay, fine, whatever. I don't know that I have to defend Android's implementation of the always-on display when Apple has clearly based their implementation of their always-on display on Android. And yes, there's some nice things about Apple's, but there are also some really nice things about Android's. And I enjoy just being able to see the basic bare minimum of stuff on my always-on display. And unfortunately, Apple doesn't allow you to change what you see all that much and how you see it. And to me, that's where it started to become a problem. The other thing that wasn't exactly as I hoped was the dynamic island. And there were a few things about the dynamic island that I didn't like. And one of them was just the way that the cutout worked. Look here at the notch on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Now, this is the big notch. And this notch was designed to sort of like blend into the whole operating system. And once you get it going, once it's there, it's sort of, you just don't see it anymore. The dynamic island, unfortunately, it's a big, giant, rhombusy type thing that's like right there in the middle of the screen, which makes it, to me, more distracting than the notch ever was. I would have preferred that they made the dynamic island a thing and just kept it in the notch, honestly. And then the dynamic island doesn't really do all that much. It pops up and you get a little animation here and there, like when Face ID goes off. And yes, you can see when you're listening to something, if you are on your home screen, you can tap into it and go to it. But I just don't think that it's enough to justify having a big honking unibrow now sort of like in the middle of my screen. So the dynamic island was not everything that I hoped it would be. But I think what really matters to a lot of people when they're thinking about a brand new smartphone is the camera. And the iPhone 14 Pro Max and Pro, both, they did both have improved cameras. There was a new 48 megapixel lens in there. The sensor's bigger. There's all kinds of things going in. Cinematic mode was made better, etc., etc., etc. The iPhone is always taking great pictures. The iPhone is always done really well with video. Every year, it's maybe one feature or two features that differentiate the camera from one to the other. Unfortunately, like, it wasn't enough for me. I looked at the photos that my wife was getting with her 12. I looked at the photos that I could get from my Z Fold 4. I looked at the photos in general that I have in my whole catalog of photos, and honestly, you can't tell the difference. And most of the difference that's going to be experienced is going to be experienced all the way across iOS 16. So a lot of the formats and a lot of the different things are going to be software based, and almost everyone who has an iPhone that's still being supported with software updates is going to get all of those updates. And that's kind of where it gets me. The iPhone 12 Pro Max, like I did a little test yesterday. As I was transferring my number, which took me 4 hours. I was transferring my number back to my Z Fold 4 from the iPhone, and then transferring my wife's number from this phone onto the iPhone 14 Pro Max. 4 hours in chat while I was trying to do work with Verizon to finally get my wife's number on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I don't think that forcing people to use eSIMs instead of just like giving us an option to sort of try it out before going whole hog has really worked out all that well for Apple at all. In fact, it's one of those sort of anti-consumer, almost violent acts upon their customers that Apple sometimes perpetrates that makes me really mad, and is another reason why I want to move away from the Apple ecosystem altogether. But okay, so there's that. But my biggest point is most of the improvements are software based. When I turned this phone on and the iPhone 14 Pro Max on, as I had to do many times yesterday to try and reboot and get the number to change, this phone actually got to this home screen faster. My point isn't that the iPhone 12 Pro Max is better than the iPhone 14 Pro Max or Pro or whatever. That's not the point. My point is, from year to year, the iPhones don't change all that much. The power and speed of this phone is comparable to the power and speed of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And so therefore, if you have an iPhone 12 Pro Max and you're going to get all of the software-based improvements, then everything else is either cosmetic in new colors, or it's a few things that just aren't enough to justify spending $1,100, $1,200, $1,500 for a new iPhone if you've done that within the last few years. Just like I did the iPhone 13 Pro Max last year, I got rid of my iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, I did trade in my iPhone 12 Pro Max to get this guy on a discount. So I'm going to keep my wife's iPhone 12 Pro Max, and it's going to be my iPhone for the time being. And there's just no reason to want anything more. I don't feel a need for a new iPhone. Apple is great at selling us new iPhones. Apple is great at car crash detection and stuff like that is nice, and I'm sure it will help someone. But I've lived 50 years without a smartphone that detected my car crashes, and I think I would live without it. It's not one of those things that really matters all that much. So you tell me what you think. Why do we keep going through this every year? Why do we keep doing this? You tell me down in the comments. What is the point of the yearly upgrade cycle? And should we all just try and resist and use what we've got? What was my grandmother saying? Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. Yeah, my grandmother lived through the Depression, so I guess that was a thing. These days, we just indiscriminately buy crap all the time. So tell me what you think down in the comments below. We'll have a boisterous discussion as always. Once again, thank you for being here for another episode of the Painfully Honest Tech Show. If you want to see more Painfully Honest Tech, click on one of the things that's over there, I think now, and you'll go over and see a new video. I'm sure I picked out something that you would want to see. So click that video now, and I'm out.